Move that over here a little bit. Hi, everybody, and happy Tuesday. Gosh, it seems like it's been a while since we've been together, and actually it has been. It's been 2 weeks because we took last week off. Um, Hope you've all been well. Hope you're enjoying this lovely but somewhat dry weather. I always think of September as a time when things do tend to dry out a little bit. It's good. It's good for all the flowers that are turning to seeds. But things are starting to look a little stressed. Some of the trees are starting to change color. Susie, I know you had said your lilacs were starting to bloom again, which is a stress response too. Um, so yeah, we could use a little rain. Oh, when we're going to be getting some. They said maybe a chance this weekend. All that's to say, I'm out here in short sleeves. A lot of times this summer when I would sit outside, I'd have long sleeves on because there were a fair number of mosquitoes out, and other little biting bugs. But tonight, I noticed that there really weren't any. Knock on wood. We'll see how that goes. Um, the other sort of meteorological thing I wanted to mention was tonight's full moon, which I was really hoping. Yeah, no, it's not in the frame. It was right back here a little while ago. Um, Maybe it'll pop up again before our time together is over. But I always am fascinated by the names of our full moons. And tonight is one we've probably all heard of. It's called the harvest moon. But I learned a little something here. This is from space.com. They say that traditionally this harvest moon designation goes to the full moon that occurs closest to the autumnal or fall equinox. In most years, the harvest moon comes in September, but about every 4 or 5 years, it occurs in October. This will next happen in 2025. At the peak of the harvest, farmers can work into the night by the light of this moon. Usually the full moon rises an average of 50 minutes later each night. But for the few nights around the harvest moon, the moon seems to rise at nearly the same time each night. Just 25 to 30 minutes later across the United States, and only 10 to 20 minutes later for much of Canada, as well as Europe. Corn, pumpkins, squash, beans, and wild rice, the chief Native American staples, are now ready for gathering. So there you have it. And yeah, maybe before we're done tonight, that big old moon will be up in the sky behind us. I don't really have any show and tell items tonight. I thought to grab my chilled beverage for the evening, but didn't really have a lot of objects. But I did get an interesting email today, and I want to see if I can pull that photo up. Let's see. Boy, you'd think I'd never done this before, right? All right, we're gonna do that, we're gonna do that, and we're gonna do this. Look at this little dumpling. This was a picture that I got in an email today from a gentleman who is wondering if he could have a turtle ID. And what he said was that, let's see if I can find it here. Let's see, he said, "Good afternoon. We found this turtle walking on one of our busy streets, and I was wondering if you could help us identify it, as well as letting us know if this could possibly be or possibly have been a pet. I've never come across a turtle of this color in our area, and I have lived here for over 40 years. Tried doing some research and came up with the possibility of a Russian tortoise. Please assist if possible. Thank you in advance." And ding, 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 that's exactly right. This is a Russian tortoise. And they are pretty popular pets, and they are um, pretty commonly found as sometimes on busy streets. We actually, you might remember this because I think we did a little segment on it back during COVID. Someone found a Russian tortoise up off of Spring Street in Elgin, or I guess it's South Elgin. And could have easily been clobbered. Spring Street can get pretty busy. Owner was not located. And I'll toss this out. If you too should find a lost animal like this, putting up signs, you know how people put up signs when they lose something? Well, definitely, keep an eye open if for lost turtle signs, but also put up some signs saying found turtle, must identify, but also let the local police know and the animal control people know. If you're unable to keep it, there are a lot of rescue groups around that can help out with that. The Chicago Herp Society, locally here, specializes in helping out with homeless or found reptiles that might potentially need homes. In the case of this tortoise, that's what they're doing. They called the police department. This, by the way, this was up in Round Lake, so not local here in Kane County, but the gentleman that found it is working to find the owners, but he's also exploring the possibilities of keeping it as a pet. There's of course lots of great resources online. The main thing to keep in mind with a Russian tortoise, as with any Chelonian, is they live a really long time. Even our aquatic turtles, which some of them are thought to be somewhat shorter lived, we're looking at 30, 35, 40 years. A Russian tortoise, I can't say exactly what the lifespan is, but I know it's decades. So it's sort of the reverse problem of what you have when you've got a cat or a dog. I mean, nobody likes to lose a pet, and it seems like our furry roommates just don't last as long as we want them to. But in the case of our shelled friends, a lot of times you're looking at a situation of adding them to a will or planning for their long-term care if you are no longer able to do so. So he seemed okay with it. I don't know how old this gentleman is. If he's lived somewhere for 40 years, he's probably not one of those spring chickens, but anyway, keep your eyes open with this warm weather. People do let their pets out, and sometimes they do get away. How do we know this is a Russian tortoise and not something local? Well, one, if we look, and it's a little hard, the front leg there at the bottom is blurry, but we can see on the back legs. Let's see if we can zoom in here. There's no webs. And all of our local native turtles have webbing on their feet. All is a word we try to shy away from in nature because, all and none rarely exist. But in the case of our native turtle species, they're all aquatic in this area. If you do find a box turtle, chances in this area, I should say, and by this area, I mean St. Charles, Illinois, in a suburban area close to Chicago, it's also going to be either an escaped or a pet that was let loose, because they just don't occur in the wild around here. Now, going out a little bit farther, like I remember I had written about box turtles. I think it was last year when I was talking about my shelled roommate Arthur. I said that ornate box turtles are threatened in Illinois, and that if you find one, it's going to be an escape pet. Again, my head was thinking, here in St. Charles, but I did get an email from someone who lives near Nachusa Grasslands, which actually has a population of native ornate box turtles. So it can happen, but again, suburbia is not box turtle habitat. Now, how do we know this isn't a box turtle? Well, it's very round. Most of our Illinois native species are somewhat oblong in shape, and these guys are almost like a hamburger. The gentleman as being about as big as his hand with his fingers extended. So that's what, 6, 7 inches. I don't know, maybe 8 inches. I don't know how big his hand is, but that's a round-ish turtle without any webbing on its feet, and of that size is probably going to be something not native and either escaped or let loose. Where turtles that have been let go on purpose tend to show up. And I don't know if this gentleman found, he said it was on a busy street. I don't know if it was near a park, but a lot of people, they have this idea of, oh, I will give my pet its freedom. And so they take it to a park or a forest preserve. So a lot of times if there's a pet that was let loose on purpose, that's where it tends to show up. I remember when I worked at Red Oak, I found a box turtle, almost certainly one that someone had let go, and it was it had climbed over the railroad, the rails of the railroad that goes past Red Oak Nature Center, and then it was trying to crawl back out, but it kept flipping over. And when I found it, it was on its back. So I can't remember what we did with that one. We probably put up a sign, and then I think went to a turtle rescue group to help find it a home, because we had plenty of box turtles of our own at the nature center. So instead of a show and tell, that's what we had tonight, was a look at the moon that is it's still below the trees back there. We'll see if I talk long enough, maybe it'll come out. And a look at an email. From here, let's go and see if we can get caught up on the last 2 weeks of nature news. Now, I'm not sure if I can continue to share the screen and pull up. Please move this window away from the shared application. My screen sharing is possible. Okay, so I need to stop the share, and then we have to bring it up again because I'm going to a whole different window. So let's see if we can make that happen. There we go. So when we last got together, it was right after Labor Day. I had just gotten home within the hour of the program starting. And so the pictures that I had taken when I was up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan were still downloading. So I didn't get to show you everything. I wanted, though, to make sure we took a look at this log, which is kind of behind the cabin. I walked by it when I was up there. I walked by it several times before I really paid attention to it. And then once I saw it, I couldn't stop looking at it. Can you see what's going on here? This is a log. It's near the creek, and it is covered with moss. The mosses are very cool, but look at all these other decorations, shall we say. Let's zoom in a little bit. Lots and lots of round growths all up and down this log. These are little puffball mushrooms. Now, these aren't the edible puffballs. Well, actually, I take that. They don't quote me on this. They might be edible in a younger stage. They certainly are not edible at this point. Puffballs get their name because they puff. When they look puffy, and then they puff out their spores when you touch them. With any luck here, I don't know if I have too many windows open. I might be able to get the video that we have to play here. But here's an up closer view of these mushrooms. So each one of them has like a little point on the top that eventually serves as an opening. They look almost like oranges or something, don't they? Like brown oranges arrayed there on the log. Well, when you touch those little balls, they puff. I should have started this sooner. Um, they puff out their spores. Now these, let's give it a watch. You see that? Puff, 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 puff. I had all kinds of fun with the puff balls on here, hopefully ensuring that there will be more um, puffballs there in the future. So as a fungus, puffballs, they don't have seeds. They reproduce using spores. And oh, this is just going to keep playing, isn't it? All right, well, we don't have to keep watching it. Or do we? Is this one of those things that's curiously satisfying? It is kind of like squishing bubble wrap. You're getting spores instead of just air popping out. But those spores, they take to the air, they land, and then if the conditions are right, they will form new fungi, which will then eventually form new puffballs. This is just the fruiting body of this fungus. Remember, the mushrooms have that mycelium that extend underneath, that do that's how the organism gets its nourishment. Those mycelia are breaking down whatever the substrate is that they're attached to. Puffballs happen to be one sort of fungus that is fond of growing on wood. So even though this video is like, was it 16 seconds and it's repeating over and over, you can be pretty positive that I did this for a lot longer than 16 seconds while I was sitting there by that log. So if you see these, they should be doing the same thing here, especially with the dryness that we've had. Boy, we had so many different fungi popping up earlier in the summer when we were having all that rain. And now that it's fall, which is one of our bigger fungi seasons, I'm just not seeing as many because it is so dry. But yeah, if we get a little more rain, you can bet that we will be getting more fungi as well. Okay, so this was a little project. We don't have to get too deeply into it, but this was the cabin that I bought had this I guess you call it a corral. It was where the former owners would have their horses stay when they were up at the property. And it hadn't had a lot of attention. The structure itself is sound, but this split rail fence was in need of some attention. And rather than try to repair it, what I'd like to do is use it, maybe even as a place where I could park my car. I really just wanted to take the fence down. So that's what I set out to do, and that's a few hours work. That's what I ended up with, but what I found along the way, and my plan by when I took all those rails down, I thought, wow, this is going to make some great firewood. Not that I need any. There's already a couple of cords stored away there, but it wouldn't hurt to have some more. And I did have some tools with me to cut these logs up. But as I started looking at them, there were so many interesting things. Now um, this was the start of either a bald-faced horn, an aerial yellow jacket nest that something happened. I'm guessing a bird maybe ate the queen. It never developed into a big nest, but you can see the start of it here. The paper, I didn't notice it right away, so I kind of squished it with my hand. But I thought, well, gee, maybe next spring a bird might want to use some of that paper to make a nest. So I thought, well, I can't cut that log up, so I set it to the side. And then so many of the other logs had these really cool lichens on them. These are called British soldiers. And we'll see these around here too. I'm not exactly sure what the preferred growing conditions are. Um, are, you know, they seem to like sun, unlike, some lichens are they prefer shadier growing conditions, but they seemed quite happy there. And I thought, well, gee, I can't just, cut these up into firewood either. There's also towards the back here some of those reindeer lichen that we looked at before, those puffy growths. Um, and so I thought, well, what can I do that will preserve this and won't make me feel bad for cutting it up? Well, um, I may have mentioned when we got together before that in addition to taking the furry roommates up with me, at least the dogs, the cat did not want to get in his carrier, so he did not come on the trip. Um, but I built a turtle enclosure because Arthur, the Shelley roommate, did come with. So this was the start of it. I put a couple extra rails on it so that he wouldn't be able to climb out. But I made a little outside space for him. He had fun tromping around the inside again. I probably mentioned too in the past, and all the years I've had Arthur, he's never really had a cage. So when I put him I had to put him in a box to drive him up to Michigan. But then once I got to the cabin, I just let him walk around. This enclosure let him get some sunlight and catch a couple of bugs while he was out. So the lichens got to stay, and the turtle gets some vitamin D from the sun too. So it was a win-win. Now, as I was going back and forth, getting the different, I needed the pry bar and the hammer and the saw, and then I needed a container to put the nails in that I was pulling out of those um, fences. I kept looking. Every time I looked down, I'd see another feather, and at first I thought, gosh, did something die here? And then I realized, no, these are just turkeys. They're probably molting as they're getting ready to go into the next season. And there were just random turkey feathers here and there. I had yet to see a turkey there, though. Um, uh, I guess it's just timing. I may have mentioned too last time that I was aware that there's some things that go on there at night outside, and I had brought my trail camera up, but the trail camera didn't have its memory card in. So we're going to have to wait until the next trip up to find out just what all is going on outside up there at night. And this, for all the dog lovers that are out there, this is what it's like to go out botanizing with a almost 16-year-old dog who really just wants to be petted and to have treats and take naps. So she, as I was walking around, she just kept standing in front of me. What I was trying to look at is what she's actually standing over. And at first I thought I should try and protect this beautiful flower. They were only growing in one spot, and there was, I don't know, maybe half a dozen of them or so. And so I was thinking that, it's something you should be careful of because they're awfully pretty and there's not that many. Well, I did a little research and I found out that this flower, it's got a few different names. One is, or the most common name seems to be orange hawkweed, and it is a highly invasive plant brought over from Europe. So it's funny because where these were growing, there were also a couple. In fact, you can see one there, and I did pull that one up. A mullein plant. This area is near the granite outcropping that's behind the cabin. And it is also, it's adjacent to a permanent deer stand that the former owners built for their father. So I'd imagine there was a fair amount of foot traffic over this area. And that was another reminder to me. I kind of joke, but I'm getting more serious about it. Putting up a boot scraper at the start of the trail that goes out into the woods behind the cabin, because I don't want to track in. There's no garlic mustard there now, and I would hate to be the one that tracks it in on my shoes. But last time we got together, I mentioned that the sellers live in central Wisconsin, and they are the realtors, and they specialize in farm auctions. So they're in a somewhat rural area. And last time we looked at that European ground beetle that was brought to this country to feed on agricultural pests. So it could be there's a connection with this plant too, having been introduced. Maybe, it was brought, certainly it was brought by accident, but maybe there's a connection too to it being a European plant that was brought here to this spot by accident. So yeah, mullein, hawkweed, they'll be going bye-bye next time I go up there. Oh, another turkey feather was there. Yeah, I would love to know if this is just one bird that's losing a lot of feathers. I get the feeling though that there are several that are walking around around the property there. See a lot of turkey signs. All right, so that wraps up that last little bit of news from Michigan. Now we're back home again, and this is an insect that I don't see regularly, but it is not considered rare at all. Maybe you have seen these before. This is called a pigeon horntail. So Tremex columba is the scientific name. And if we zoom in here, we can see, well, one, we see that it is on dead wood. That is exactly where we'd expect to find this insect. And this is a female because it's got this projection here. That is her ovipositor that she will use to insert eggs into these crevices where she can. The name horntail you'd think would refer to that ovipositor, but it doesn't. There's actually a scaly plate right here that she will use to well, I don't think they use it. I don't know what they use it for. It's just used as part of the name. But there's an interesting relationship with this insect and those big ignumenid wasps that we see there. Those are the wasps that have the long ovipositor that's maybe longer than their body, so say like 3 or 4 inches. Gosh, you know what? If I was thinking, I would have put up a picture of one. A gentleman just sent me one that he found dead in his garage. I should have put that in there too. But anyway, the ignumenid wasps will parasitize the offspring, the larvae of the horntails. So I want to keep an eye out on this log to see if we see some activity of that sort. I don't know if that would be this time of year or if that will occur later on, say next year, when those female ignumenid wasps will seek out the larvae of the horntail. I know exactly where this log is, and I'm going to tell you exactly where it is because it's something you can find. It's at the back of the Hickory Knolls Natural Area. If you're local, if you're familiar with that area, it's about 130 acres, a very long and narrow property that runs east and west. North and south is where it's narrow. But if you walk out to the back, it's just a skosh over a mile, a round trek to the back of the property and then back to the nature center is about 2.25 miles. So you can get a pretty good workout in. distance wise and also cardio wise, because there's quite a few glacial deposits. That log where the horntail was laying her eggs is actually a chair that was carved out by Ryan, who's one of our restoration ecologists. And this, this is one of the prettiest views, not just in the park district, but I would say in the whole county. It's at the top of a hill. So I'm sitting where that horntail was sitting. In fact, she wasn't real fond of us. I was there with some of my coworkers the other day. She wasn't. We interrupted her egg laying activities and almost sat on her. But she was there for one purpose. We were there for another. So this chair is positioned to look to the southwest, and if when you're sitting down, you can kind of see right here. I believe that's Elburn's water tower, but it really looks like you're out on a hill in a prairie, and that it extends for miles and miles and miles. Of course, it doesn't. Route 31, Route 38 is right over here, but it's far enough away that it's not obvious. There's vegetation that obscures it. It really is a great place to go and get away when you don't have time to truly get away. If you just only have, an hour or so, and you're just, kind of want to chuck it all for a short time, this is the place to go. You can see the prairie grasses. This hill prairie has undergone tremendous changes over the last 5 years. They used to be choked with black cherry trees, which they're native. They're in themselves, they're not bad, but they don't belong on a hill prairie. This prairie is the soil is so sandy. We actually had a coyote dig a den back there a few years back, and from the trail below, looking up, seeing where the hole was in the side of the prairie, of the hill prairie, it looked like somebody had dumped a pile of sand there when she had done her excavation. So it's leads to some unique plants that are growing there, and it's really a cool sight to see. The prairie and the plants that grow there, and of course the cool insects that might be out there too. Now, continuing with our theme of, gosh, it's dry out. This was the scene last, let's see, what day was this? This was last Friday. So Susie, I don't know if you're on tonight, but Susie's had a tradition of walking across the Fox River, usually about this time of year, around Labor Day or a little bit before or after, whenever the river is at a low ebb, which it was last week. It's even lower now, I guarantee it. In fact, there's some discussion. We've got it's our River Day, river cleanup this Saturday, and there's some concern above the dam, not below the dam, but above the dam, looking out for blue-green algae, which is toxic and kind of dangerous. Below the dam, we've got enough flow that it hasn't been an issue, but in the impoundments going up above the dam near Fearston Creek Park and stuff, we're going to see if we can maybe get some of that water tested to make sure it's safe. But no worries for that through this stretch, because there's a decent flow below the dam. My friend Barb was with us last Friday when we opted to do this walk, and Barb wasn't going to go in the water, so I gave Barb my phone because I was not gonna. I kind of have a history of, and it's not a good one, of me and cell phones and water. So Barb was able to chronicle this adventure. So this is, in fact, if we go back here, I believe that's me over here, easily halfway out across the water, and it wasn't even knee deep. it was there was a decent flow. And as we got closer, so what we're doing is we are walking from the west side to the east side. And if you're familiar with that stretch of uh, Fox River in downtown St. Charles, this is, so it's below the dam. It's also below the Illinois Street Bridge. We're very close to, if we go back to this picture, that's the Prairie Street Bridge right there. So Mount St. Mary's Park would be a little bit more to the south. These rocks are what is behind the development known as the brownstones that are along the water too. So not deep at all until you get pretty close to the other side. As we got over there now, I have a rule that sometimes ends up getting broken when I'm out wading in the water, and it's keep the unders dry. And it was close, but I did. The water, I have kind of freakishly short legs, so I would guess the water was about 28 inches deep over there. So a little over 2 feet. Wasn't awful. And then as we got closer to the bank, it got more and more shallow again. Whoops. And probably the most treacherous part of the walk was on that other bank. There's an awful lot of busted up concrete and asphalt over here, and it's not well anchored. So the substrate is a little rocky. We actually, be funny if he actually showed up here. There was a young mink that was not happy with us, probably, that we showed up. There was a broken piece of pipe over here, and it took cover there, and then it ran through these black locust trees. If you do want to try this yourselves, just beware. A lot of these trees here are black locust. They have horrible thorns. So don't think when you get to the other side, you're going to pull yourself up to the bike trail that's there by pulling on those branches, because they will hurt. But the mink ran up under the cover of these bushes here, and then ended up going back down into the water a little bit upstream of us. So that was a pretty cool sighting as well. Now, this next picture that I accidentally showed you, you can maybe see, let's get this out of the way again. Can you see what's going on here? I saw this thing on, this is over at Bakerfield Park. I was walking through there the other night, and I don't know if somebody took a picture there where they had those silk flower leis that you can put on. That's what it looks like, is the petals from one of those. They're all over the park, and I had actually stopped to pick up a couple of those silk flower petals, and I saw what I thought was a dead bee, and I realized it's not dead at all. This is how we get more bumblebees. So the large bee is one of next year's queens, and she actually has 2 different suitors there that are doing whatever they can to help ensure that she is a fertilized queen, which will then allow her to lay eggs that future colony. So yeah, it's a little graphic. Let's move on. There's a still shot, which it was really hard to tell, which end was which, and who was going where. But it made me feel good, because about this time last year, I had found a bumblebee queen with a male. I guess they're called drones. And they were both dead on the sidewalk. And I was half expecting to find that again, but no, they were very much alive. And somewhere in the greater Bakerfield Park area next year, we will have another bumblebee colony. Now, also on this walk, I can't tell you how many squirrels there were. And I started thinking about it. So this one, it was pretty hot. So it was, yeah, stretched out there. There were two in this yard. There's one here, a little bit closer. There's one here, a little farther away. There were two more squirrels in the yard adjacent to this one. And then I rounded a corner and there's two more, including black one. And we have this smallish but persistent group of black squirrels here on the west side of St. Charles from roughly well, let's see, this was Oak and Third, Oak and Fifth, and then all the way up to Haynes Middle School. I've seen black squirrels all along in that area. This one, I'm pretty sure, was a young from this year, a young squirrel from this year, because he's not full grown yet. And these, for all I know, they could be litter mates because they seem to be about the same size. But there are squirrels everywhere. If you're a dog owner, you might be well aware of this too. I started noticing the squirrel phenomenon with tech support puppy, who sincerely believes that he must at least try to catch every squirrel he sees. And I try to see them before he does so I can brace myself, but there's been a time or two when I thought I was gonna lose my arm or at least have it pulled out of its socket because he'll charge at them. And it's a daily thing. And if I'm trying to figure out the best time to walk him, because it seems like when we go out in the morning, the squirrels are out. And when we go out in the evening, the squirrels are out. If we go out after dark, then it's the rabbits that he wants to go after. And we have a lot of those too, but the squirrels, maybe part of their success can be traced back to these mass years. We're on our third one now. Now this year I don't think is quite as big in terms of fruit production as we've seen the last 2 years, but there's still a lot of acorns. There's a lot of black walnuts. There's a lot of horse chestnuts and buckeyes, which are supposed to not be good for squirrels, but I see them chewing on those too. So there's plentiful fruit yet again. But as we get these years of these mass years where the trees are making lots of food, the things that eat that food then succeed as well. So we could be in for another big round of squirrels next year as well. Now this, you might be thinking, okay, what'd you do? But no, there's actually a couple things here. Looks like you're looking at a dirty window, doesn't it? But here and here and here and here, those little dots, you zoom in a little bit more, you can see those are birds. Those are nighthawks. There's one is a little bit more visible here. This was over by the Baker Hotel. Susie and I had gone there the other night. Let's see, boy, I'm not good with mouse tonight. We were looking for chimney swifts. There was over 1,000 chimney swifts in the chimney behind the old ski shop downtown, Vertical Drop. And they were being seen by patrons at the Baker Hotel. And Susie and I went to watch them on Monday night. And I'm kind of wondering if maybe we just didn't wait long enough because we did then go check another couple of chimneys, and we certainly saw swifts circling above downtown St. Charles, but we never quite figured out where they were headed. And maybe it was that we just didn't stay at Vertical Drop long enough. In fact, it was kind of funny. The woman who told me about this chimney, we were laughing at how we don't know the current names of anything. That chimney we call, behind the old Vertical Drop, which Vertical Drop hasn't been there for years. It's now I think it's a salon, but I think that salon is closed. This is what we're talking about is at the corner of Route 64 and Route 31. It's the northeast corner. So then we checked the old post office, which is now is it Doc Morgan's? It's a place where you can have trophies made. And then we checked the old Napa Auto Parts, which is now a dance studio. But we were laughing at how you get to a certain point and everything is the old such and such because you can't remember what the new thing is. The chimney swifts are still in the area and the nighthawks are on the move too. So if you can't find one, maybe look for the other. This fall migration is closely tied into our insects, and as we start getting supposedly we're going to be getting cooler temperatures at some point, and as the temperatures cool off, the bug populations cool down as well, and both nighthawks and chimney swifts are 100% insectivores. So when the bugs leave, so do they. Now, Diane, this is courtesy of your trip. You said 6,000 miles that you went out west and back again. And lo and behold, out in Montana, of all places, there was a display about freshwater mussels. And I gotta tell you, these, let's see, can I zoom in here or not? Maybe this won't let me zoom in. These are gorgeous buttons. Yeah, Museum of the Rockies. They a lot of they put the buttons that I found in antique shops and stuff around here, kind of puts those buttons to shame. These are really quite fancy. You notice they did say a clam shell as opposed to a mussel shell. Potato, right? Well, clams, there is a little bit of difference in how they reproduce. A clam does not need a fish host, whereas a mussel does. This picture here that's shown on this is, I think there was only one or maybe two pictures taken of Johann Beppel, the man who brought the concept of shell buttons to the United States. And that's one of the pictures. I have a copy of it as well. But this interpretive panel talks about how the buttons nearly wiped out, the button industry very nearly wiped out our mussel species. And those that survived then had to put up with all the pollution that came along with the industrial age and the late 1800s and 1900s.
The museum is associated with Montana State.
Okay.
And it was a small museum, but specializing in fossils and dinosaur bones. But it was great.
And lo and behold, they had a mussel display, huh?
Yes, I know.
What
and of course, I instantly thought of you when I saw it.
Yeah, I would. Well, it kind of reminds me about, I have caddisfly case earrings that I didn't find, in a shop along a river. I found in the desert outside the museum, outside of Las Vegas. So yeah, these things pop up in unexpected places. But besides this museum, Diane, you went to one of my very favorite places to learn about things, and that's the Mississippi River Museum in Dubuque. Now, how did you happen to go there? Was that a planned trip?
Well, we started in Milwaukee. It was my daughter and her two kids who are 5 and 8, and we didn't want to drive a whole lot because we had two small children, and we were actually, our end destination was Seattle. My oldest son lives there, so we just took our time. And when I read about this museum, I thought, well, that'd be a great place to start, because that would be, we would follow along the Mississippi, which we did. We went, we started in Dubuque, or from Milwaukee to Dubuque, and then to La Crosse,
Oh,
and then
sure.
to Minneapolis. And
Hmm.
then from there we went on up to, we went to Duluth, which is the other direction. But that was so we could see Lake Superior. And then our first
Sure.
national park was that we went to 9 different national parks, but
Wow.
we went to Voyagers. That was our first national park
What
that
a
we went to.
trip. Oh, cool.
So
Well,
it was amazing. We took almost 4 weeks, but all the way to Seattle and then back. We did 9 national parks, and Mount Rushmore, and just a lot of other interesting stops along the way. It was amazing.
yeah, I can just imagine. We could have you could have your own good natured hours
I
and
could.
hours of all the cool things you saw. And this, now I know you said this wasn't too exciting, but I think it is. What we're looking at here, this was where they're actually doing muscle reintroductions, right?
Right.
And
Relocated. Yep.
there was all this nice interpretive signage. Folks, if you're ever planning a trip, even you can even do this in a day. Dubuque is not that far
I
from.
think it's from St. Charles. I looked it up. It's like 2 hours and 45 minutes.
Yeah, yeah, it's not bad at all. In fact, I know like some of our park districts will run day trips out there to the casino. So you could go gamble or you could go learn stuff. And
Mhm.
this museum just has they excel in their interpretive message, and they have a lot of interactive things too. I remember when I was there, I've been there a few times, but there was they have these tanks where you can reach in, and they had rays there one time. You could pet a ray, or you could wait, gosh, was it crayfish? There was something else, things that would maybe take some effort to find in the wild, they had on display that you could interact with. um
They still have an aquarium too. So
okay.
it's the part of it's the Mississippi River, and then the other side is an aquarium. And you're right, they had rays and also starfish touching and that sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. And they have the floor, they have the Mississippi is in the tiles of the floor, that you as you walk along, you're going past the different
Hmm.
cities along the Mississippi. um Super cool place. And here they had these great signs talking about mussels themselves. And then I thought this was interesting, the largest freshwater mussel relocation effort ever attempted. um so lots of cool things to learn there. um and outlining the process. This kind of makes me want to hop in the car and head over there. I might have to do that sometime soon. um but I was so glad you shared these photos, Diane. um and then that is looking out towards the big river, right? um Now, do they still have otters there? Do they still have river otters as part of their display?
I think they did in their display. Yes, 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 they did. This view right here, because we had gone up on a old short cable car, and you can see 3 states from this view,
Wow.
because
Uh,
you're across the way is Wisconsin, and then I guess it would be to the south would be Illinois, and then you're in Iowa.
nice. Yeah,
So, and you
it
can see the weather was beautiful.
yeah.
So
Well,
we were lucky.
we had visited there before we opened Hickory Knolls to get some exhibit ideas, which is back when we thought we actually had an exhibit budget, which it turns out we didn't. But um, they have traveling exhibits there too. So even if you go one time and then you go back, a year or two later, you're going to see different things, because they have a large amount of space that they change out frequently with other exhibits. In fact, one of the times when I was there, they had it was an interactive rattlesnake display. And what it was, you couldn't actually touch the rattlesnakes, but you could the snakes were in an enclosure that was maybe 4 feet off the ground. and you could crawl underneath the display. And then they had at various points in the exhibit, they had these uh, clear plexiglass domes, and you could, on your hands and knees, you could then, stand up and you'd stick your head in this dome and you'd be looking like face to face with a rattlesnake. So, super cool things, and always good, when they're promoting muscle awareness, because those are such important little creatures. So thanks for that, Diane. And yeah, if you've got other cool pictures to send,
I'm still going through my
Sort of
photos, but I'll, when I come across something that I think is shareable, I will send your way.
awesome. Thank you. Well, you did share another picture too, and I'm pretty sure this is a great horned owl feather.
Oh, wow. Oh, my granddaughter will be so excited.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it looks like their pattern, and then owls, most of their feathers have this abundance of fluff here. The owl's feathers act as a muffler so that they can have that silent flight, and I'm pretty sure this is from the say part of the breast feathers, or maybe along the back of the owl. I'm gonna go with the front, but yeah, I'm gonna say great horned owl feather.
So cool. This is from, she found it in Milwaukee, in the Milwaukee
Nice.
area.
Well,
Sherwood, Wisconsin, I think.
that's a great find, and tell her to keep her ears open then too, and that'll be further confirmation. I don't know what her bed. How old is your granddaughter? Young?
She's 5.
Okay. Okay, maybe.
But she doesn't go to bed that early, so I'll mention it.
But sometimes these owls, I hear them. I sleep by 8:30, so I'll hear them sometimes too. But this is a good segue, because Keith and Rebecca, now I think I'm going to have to stop this share. Keith and Rebecca were out the other night, and oh, there's the moon. The moon has come up now. There it is, harvest moon. Keith and Rebecca had seen, and there's our mandatory St. Charles Park District commercial, but here we go. So look who they saw, the top of a tree. A great horned owl. And we've got some video here too. It's faint, but listen. Looks like a cat almost, doesn't it? So that is the call of a mature great horned owl. And I think we've got another video segment here too, but it's got a little more action to it.
Pam, I'm not seeing the video. I don't know if everyone else is.
Oh, sorry. I forgot to hit share. I'm enjoying it. But I suppose I should let you guys see it too, huh? Sorry, Laura. Let's try this again. Oh, yeah, you'd think I would get the hang of this. Oh, yeah, there it is. All right, so let's share, and I want to make sure that we're sharing the sound and the video. Let's go here. All right, let's go back. Sorry about that. All right, so there's the photo that we started with, and here's the owl. You can zoom in. The owl at the top of the tree. All right, and now let's play this. Okay, so that was one video. Now let's start the next one. And you can So hopefully you were able to hear. I'll play it one more time. There are two distinct tones there. So there's the higher pitched and the lower pitched. And the higher is the female and the lower is the male.
I don't think I can hear it, Pam, but maybe other people can.
It's pretty faint. And when I was watching this, over at Good Natured World Headquarters, I couldn't hear anything because we had the window air conditioning unit on because it was about 1,000 degrees upstairs there today. And Keith,
Maybe it's my rotator fan that I have in front of me.
but their call doesn't, it's not a booming call anyway. So it is kind of faint. But what I thought might be going on here, and now I'm sort of backing off of that. At first I thought, well, maybe this was a parent, and this interaction here between the two was a parent shooing away one of their offspring because this is a time of year. Wow, lots of hooting going on. This is the time of year when, just like we talked about the hawk a few weeks ago, the owls are also telling their kids, okay, you know what? The gravy train stops here. We've been feeding you all spring and all summer long. You have to start taking care of yourself. So at first I thought maybe that was the parents shooing away their little darlings, but it could just have been an interaction between adults, and it could be that the kids are somewhere else still in the area. I did want to play one more thing, and I know you'll be able to hear this one, but I'm gonna stop the share and then bring that screen up. I'm gonna hit share. And we're gonna play this. So this was not this year. This was a video that was shared a couple of years ago. But this is what an immature owl sounds like. So that begging, that repetitive whining tone, screen sharing is shut. Okay. That's what we're hearing at this time of year too. That video was from almost exactly 2 years ago at this time of year. So keep your eyes open for owls up at the tippy tops of trees. They like to sit on the peaks of roofs too. And keep your ears open. Mom and dad are still communicating, and I think they still got eyes on their kids, their offspring from this year, although they are starting to withhold food because it's not too much longer. As we get into end of October, November, December, they're starting their courtship up again because they're going to be laying eggs again once we get into the new year. So things are moving along. But it was nice to end on that owly note. Let's see, do we have a couple of chats here? There's an old Mississippi button factory on the Mississippi River at Bellevue. Yes, there is. Well, I was there. It's funny, I was there about 20 years ago too, and yes, there were huge piles. So there, a lot of those river towns have, they'll have an older building, a very old building that's like right on the water, and then there'll be shells with buttonholes punched in them all over. Almost every town along the Mississippi had some connection to the mussel button trade. And I remember that there's that lock and dam there. The DNR conservation police were there, and I took one of the shells over to him and I said, is it okay, you know, if I took one of these? And he said, oh, take as many as you want. I mean, we got more than we know what to do with. He was there checking fishing licenses and if people had their registration for their boats and things like that. So even though they're a really cool heritage artifact, I think apparently there's no restrictions on taking a few. So yeah, that's a super cool spot as well. And then yeah, so yeah, Pam needs to shut up so that you can hear those owls going. And yes, there is a button museum in Muscatine. It's certainly worth it. I believe it's actually moved since the last so I was I think it was the same trip that when I was in Bellevue, I also went down to Muscatine. A friend and I did a muscle button tour of Iowa river towns, and the Muscatine Museum hadn't opened yet. But it was this close to opening, and my friends and I were standing there, you know, looking through the window, and this nice woman came in and said, would you like to come in and see what we have? And the exhibits weren't quite finished yet, but she, you know, let us look around. I remember there were pictures. They used to have button or the Muscatine is called the Pearl of the Mississippi, so maybe it was called like the Pearl Parade, but it was in honor of the button trade and that tradition they had there in town. And they had I don't know if she was Miss Muscle or Miss Button or Miss Pearl, but they had this giant, you know, she is probably, you know, 8 feet, giant mussel shell that was open, and then she was standing in the middle, you know, doing the queen wave. And they also had a letter from Ronald Reagan. He was invited to be the grand marshal of the parade. So that was the era. It must have been like the 1940s, you know, when he was a movie star, and he was unable to make it to the parade. So he wrote, you know, a nice letter with his apology and his regrets that he couldn't make it. But I believe it has moved from its original location, but it's got some phenomenal exhibits detailing how the mussels were caught and processed, turned into buttons. So yeah, put it on your list. Yeah. If that's, oh gosh, we went over. If that's it for tonight, folks, be sure to take in the full moon if you can. And you know, it's a lovely evening. I had one mosquito, so it's not even very buggy. Hopefully, though, we do get some rain. It was a pleasure seeing you all tonight. We'll do this again next week, next Tuesday at 8 o'clock. Have a great rest of your week, everybody. I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Pam.
Thanks, Pam.
Bye.